Okay, so welcome back. So we're looking at, as I said before, shot 0010 underscore 01. And now, okay, a couple of things. Let's just, before we look at anything else, we've got 30 frames per second here as well. Just keep this in mind. We can change these things. Now, I'd recommend just leave it on 30 frames a second, unless you've got a reason to do it otherwise or to change things up. You can change them, but 30 frames is fine to begin with. And you'll notice we have here show time as. So we've got the option of frames. So because we've got 30 frames a second, each 30 frames is going to be 1 second. So we've got 30, 60, 90, 120, 150. So that's going to be 5 seconds. You can change it, of course, so you can show change time as seconds now. That can be a lot easier if you're trying to work out how long you want something to take. It can often be better to be looking at seconds. Keep in mind though, you may end up putting something mid-frame or whatever. So that's the difference between looking at seconds rather than frames. What else are we going to look at? So we've got the camera cuts, the camera cut track here. So these are our tracks. We have our Cine Camera Actor. You'll notice it's spawned. So this is an interesting thing with our sequencer, and you'll notice you'll see the camera there. So that is our actual camera that we're using for this cut. Because it's spawned, we see it when we have the playhead over here. So let me just actually change things. If I click on that, you can see what we see in here. We can come into here and hang on, what are we doing? We can actually follow the camera and actually change the camera. So if we go now move, so actually piloting this camera, and we can change where it actually goes and what it looks at. So that's kind of useful for setting up your shots, etc. Once you've got it where you want it to be, then you can just click stop piloting actor, just there, like so. And now we've moved our camera. If I move our actual camera out of the way that we're looking at, you'll see it's actually moved there. Now, if we come out, if I just show you what happens, we come out of here. So this is shot one. If we come out of here, we can see the playhead is over here. If I go and move to the next one, our camera disappears because it's spawned. And we have the other camera that's spawned for this particular shot. So that's something to keep in mind. Can be a little confusing. You're playing with the camera and all of a sudden, your playhead moves over here and you no longer actually have, if I go into here now, you'll see this is all red. We don't actually have access to that camera anymore. To fix it, all I need to do is just click up here, which brings the playhead into this shot, and that camera is now accessible. So look, while we're talking about cameras, let me talk about a couple of other things as well. So again, I'm going to I can select this either by selecting it in the viewport, or selecting it down here, or even selecting it in the outliner, and you'll see it's Cine Camera Actor here. So I can just go and select that one as well. And again, that's going to disappear if I move into here. So you'll notice we've now got Cine Camera Actor 3. So the names of these are going to be different depending on which shot we actually go into. So to get back, you just click up here. Let's go to the next shot as well. So you can see this is Cine Camera Actor 6. To come back to my main sequence, I just click on that up here, and we can do that. So let's just come back here again. Now we can make that a little bit bigger. So a couple of other things that's worth knowing about when we're using sequencer So if we come into our perspective, you'll see we've got a couple of different viewports here. We have a default viewport, which is the one we use all the time. We also have the option for what's called a cinematic viewport. So if I click on that, like so, we get this controller. Now you can do a certain amount of control through here. So if I, excuse me, if I, oh goodness me, jump to previous key, to previous, to the front, to the start, I hope that is. If I hit play, that's actually going to run this thing, and we should then pop to the next. It's not, okay, my bad. Let's go to the previous thing here. So now we're in the parent, up the front. Let's just make this a little bit bigger. Let's just go to the start, and if we hit play now, you should see when we cross the boundaries, we'll go to the next shot. And it didn't do that. Hang on. Yeah, okay. I don't use this. I was just going to show this to you. And so I don't use it very much because it's a little clunky. The thing that I've found with Sequencer generally is that it has been a little flaky. Now I've used it mostly in Unreal Engine 4.25. So hopefully it has improved in this particular version. But for various reasons, I tend not to use this. I don't use the play in here very much. What I was going to show you was the different views that we get just up here. So if you're familiar with any sort of design stuff with 2D images, if I click on this one, you'll see we've got some overlays. We can get a 3x3 grid, a 2x2 grid crosshair, or rebatement, whatever that happens to be. 3x3 can be useful if you are trying to maybe use your rule of thirds in your shot. Now, problem with having all these together, of course. So I'm using this in just one screen. I would recommend using multiple screens. I usually have this on my second screen, but for this demo, I'm going to keep it here, which means I don't have a lot of room. But so now, I can use my rule of thirds and have, say, 2/3 the sky, have the building sort of at the first third there, and then have that as a nice shot, or I can play around with different thirds there. Of course, we don't at the moment, so we're not actually using the Cine Camera Actor, so we can click on that one. Now we're doing that. The other thing that I will mention, which does impact this, if you know anything about cameras, we can come here to our Cine Camera Actor, and we can set various things with our camera as if it was a real camera. So they've done a lot to make things as close to real cameras as possible. Again, for the Hollywood market. So we can drop down here, and you'll see we've got 16:9 film, 16:9 digital film, 16:9 DSLR. So if you're using a DSLR, then you'd be familiar with this particular setting. We've also got Super 8, Super 16, Super 35. And a whole lot of other things here. IMAX 70mm, all of these as well. I tend to go 16:9 DSLR, which gives you that. And you've got some lens settings here as well. So you've got a universal zoom, but you can select some different lenses here. Now this is not a class on photography or lenses, so I'm not going to go into this in detail, but if you want to go for like a prime, then go for a 12mm prime, which is what I actually use quite a bit because it gives you sort of a nice wide shot. Or you could go to one of the 30mm primes as well, and you get some different settings there. So make sure you got these set up first, whatever it is you want, whatever it is the particular lens you want to use, and then we're actually piloting. So at the moment, then I can set up my shot, and again, using the rule of thirds here, I might do something. It's not the greatest shot, really, is it? Something maybe like that. It's pretty ordinary, but Again, I've got this overlay and I've got the rule of thirds. I can use a different overlay, for instance, if I wanted to center something. So I can get my 2x2 grid, and then say I wanted to have that centered. That's pretty easy just to center them. Now you might think, well, why bother with that sort of stuff? It can be difficult to do, to actually get things centered if you're working, say, in this format, and then someone changes the size of the screen, which is going to happen because your games are played on different machines. So if you don't use this, sometimes even if you just sort of like that, it can make a fair difference. It might appear to be centered, but it's not completely centered. So first thing to do is to line up your screen. We can now go and go back to my default viewport. Okay, so we should have our camera. Where's our camera gone? There it is. So hit F, and it will focus on the camera. And that's all set up nicely for my first shot right there. So let's pause again, and we'll come back and keep going.